Hey everyone, it's Zoe here. Welcome back to another live Q&A. I'll just leave everybody to a few minutes to log on. If you're listening to the recording a bit later after the event, just as per usual, skip forward a couple of minutes. Tonight we're going to talk about staying healthy at home and what you need to do to stay healthy at home, and I'll hopefully give you some ideas on how to manage if you are having to self-isolate or quarantine because you're unwell, which is a little bit of a weird thing, and a lot of us have never really had to deal with this before. So I think it's important that we talk about it, and hopefully we can use the Facebook group as a really good way to stay in touch and maybe vent if we need to vent, come up with good ideas, brainstorm together with some different ways to tackle things, so that we manage the 2 week, maybe more, who knows, period where we might need to stay at home. So that's going to be the focus. I'm just going to let everybody log on a little bit. I've got the I know I look like I'm in jail a little bit. I am just at work, so I'm in another room, so hopefully the sound is okay. I know it looks a little bit weird because it's a plain white background with nothing too exciting going on, and the lighting's a bit funny, but hopefully you can bear with me. I'm just going to see if I can scroll across and see when everybody logs on. Hang on. No, pressing the wrong button. Okay, here we go. Somebody is there. Just trying to work it out because it's on the side, and Facebook has just updated their app. I don't know if anybody else is struggling with it a little bit like I am, but I'm just trying to find everything again. I can't see who you are when you log on. So when you log on, can you just pop your name in and say hi so that I can see the comments popping up as they go past? What I'll do just while I'm waiting for a few more people to log on is I'm just going to have a look at the Facebook group. This week we are challenged, actually let's go back to last week. There it is. Where are we? Last week's challenge was to snack only if you are hungry. And this came up again. We've been doing the March members challenges. So at the beginning of the month I said to you, right, what are the things you're going to focus on this month? And then based on your responses to that post, I've pulled out some things that I think are kind of either common threads or really interesting challenges. And we've been doing one of those each week for the month of March. Last week, quite a few of you said that you wanted to snack or not snack in between meals and really just focus on getting your 3 meals in a day and your water in between. And actually when I have a look at the comments, Jen, for example, said she stopped snacking 3 months ago because one of the main reasons was she wasn't getting enough fluids in, and she really had no excuse to snack because she wasn't actually hungry. And once she started, she was fine. And now that she's not snacking in between meals, she's actually able to get 2 litres of water in as well as tea or coffee. So that seems to have worked really, really well for her. Katrina sort of commented and said that a lot of the time if she was snacking it was probably because she was a bit bored. So if she's busy throughout the day and she's drinking enough, again back to the fluids, she found that actually she was managing and not really feeling like she needed to snack in between at all. We had some people comment though and say that they snacked either mindlessly, so if they planned their snacks and didn't kind of have to kind of go ad hoc with their snacks in between their meals, it was much easier for them to minimize snacking in between. And Victoria, I think, said that she said that was going to be really hard. I'm not really sure how she managed it, but she said she was stress eating because of recent personal events plus coronavirus fears. So again, that emotional contact with or connection with food was something that she was finding quite tough. So that was last week's challenge. This week's challenge, I said, which everybody, I had quite a few comments already today, was to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep each night. So I'm not sure how we all go with this. I found over the weekend, so a little bit of a backstory, Andy, my husband, had another wrist operation last week, and so he's been at home, and it just kind of meant that we were almost self-quarantining because he really couldn't go out and do things, and he was struggling a bit with pain and things. So he's been sleeping on the couch, which meant that anytime I lay on the couch, I basically fell asleep. And I was like, what is wrong with you? There's no possible way that you can be this tired. But I think actually sometimes we just get a little bit run down, and with a change in weather, it's getting a bit cooler in Sydney. It's actually just quite nice to have a little bit of extra sleep to catch up a little bit on sleep. So your weekly challenge this week is to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep each night. So see how you go. Some people have already said, no way, I try so hard, it never works. Lots of things happen during the night that wake me up. I don't sleep very well without exercise. Normally I'm okay, but all of the stuff that's going on is giving some anxiety and making it hard to sleep. Vanessa said she's lucky to get 4 hours. So I think we could all work a little bit on this area, because it does have a really big impact on our ability to cope with stress, our immune system, our ability to lose weight and keep weight off in the long term, our appetite signals. So this is really, really one of the key things we need to work on. Sarah's here. Hey Sarah, how are you? Sarah, I'm going to chat a bit about staying healthy at home if we're having to self-quarantine. So if you've got any questions, just pop them in. I was just giving everyone a little bit of time to log on. Also, let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm in a different room. I'm in the office, so I look like a little bit like I'm in a jail cell. Just a plain white background. So hopefully you guys can manage that today. There's a couple more people on there, but I can't see who you are. It hasn't come up with a little notification. So can you just pop your comment in and say hi, and then I'll be able to see who's here. We've had a few new people join us, which is really good. Sue's joined us again. Serena has joined us, and hopefully, yes, as of today, Crystal has joined us as well. So that's really exciting to see you all. Welcome back, Sue, and welcome to Crystal and Serena. All right, let's have a look at staying healthy while staying at home. Okay, so I think at the moment everything's a little bit up in the air. It's really difficult to know exactly what's happening, what's going to happen, we can't predict the future. Everything is changing so fast. At the moment, I'm still at work at the university, but that might change tomorrow or Wednesday, who knows? Or we might be able to stay open. We're just sort of preparing for all manners of things. So what I wanted to do was just talk through a couple of things if you have to stay at home. So obviously the advice is at the moment, lots of people are either having to stay at home because they're unwell, or they are having to self-isolate because they might have come into contact with someone else or been traveling and just come back in. And that, sorry, at the moment, that quarantine, that self-isolation is a 2-week period. Others of us are working at home, or we're having events cancelled. Maybe we're just not feeling as confident at going out. We're a bit worried. And also there's the responsibility that we have for the more vulnerable members of the community to try and slow that spread, or they're using the term flattening the curve, so that when people do get sick, they're better able to cope in terms of the healthcare system. So, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. I promise it's not me getting sick though. So what I thought was, why don't I put together a couple of things that I think might be useful if you find yourself housebound, whether it's due to weather, illness, or self-isolation. Maybe you're not sick, maybe you are. So I think the first thing, and I would love to hear your feedback as we go through. Let me know in the comments section if you have any great ideas. If you are working from home, or if you are self-isolating, just pop in any things that you found really helpful, and I'll just run through a couple of things that I think are useful. One is, the first thing I think this is really big, is to try to stick to your schedule. And I know this is probably easier said than done. It's simple, yes, but it's not easy. So just maybe spend a little moment to reflect on what your schedule normally would be, especially if you're not actually unwell. if you're just having to self-isolate, or if you're self-isolating just to minimize the risk to the community. So what you might do is kind of think, okay, what time do I normally have my meals? What time do I normally take my vitamins? What time do I normally drink my water? And sure, like you might sleep in a bit later, especially if you are ill, but try to adjust those times as you wake up, rather than letting the whole day just kind of fall by the wayside and be lost in some weird time warp. Okay, so keep a tentative meal plan about what you're going to have and about what time. So it doesn't mean that you have to stick to that exactly, but at least have a loose idea. I know a lot of us are kind of planning ahead in terms of maybe cooking and freezing meals, or making sure that we have stuff in the pantry that we can create. So to make sure we're doing that effectively, and also not to just panic buy everything that we possibly can, which means that maybe other people in the community don't have access to the things they need. If you actually sit down and plan that, it'll make it easier for you when it comes to managing your meals, but also make it easier for the community as a whole in terms of managing supply. Okay, so the other thing is to think about the visual layout of your food as well. So if you know that in your house you have stuff that might be those tempting foods, but they're not as great to eat, so it might be the ice cream, it might be the chips, the chocolate, the cheese, whatever it is for you, try to avoid having, and this goes for food in general, I guess, put it out of sight because it's more likely to be out of mind. Okay, try to avoid having much out on the bench top or the table. Try to put it away in a top cupboard, in a bottom drawer, at the back of another cupboard, so you don't see it until you actually really need it. And even better, if you know that you might have to work from home, or you know that you might need to self-isolate, which could be coming at any old time, is to plan what you're going to have, but try to avoid having those foods that you know are particular trigger foods for you at home. Because if it starts and you do find yourself looking at one of those trigger foods, you might find that you can't stop eating it, and then you might start the whole sort of anxiety and fear and failure cycle all over again. And it's difficult to use some of those strategies that we might use, where we just take a step outside, go for a walk, go to the gym, whatever it might be. So see if you can A, plan your meals, B, make sure that you keep food out of sight, out of mind, C, think about the timing of your meals and try to stick to your usual routine. The next thing I think is important is maybe thinking about, it's a bit more of a mental shift, I guess, but thinking about leaning into the challenge. So, stuff's been cancelled, things, have changed, there's a lot of uncertainty, we don't really know what's happening, and it's changing every day, but, think about what maybe some positives of this. So think about the fact that you might get to spend more time with your family than that you usually would, and that you could actually be grateful for that. Or think about maybe getting some stuff done at home that you have had on your list forever. Like, for example, I had a cupboard that had moths in it and it was driving me crazy, and so over the weekend I actually managed to pull everything out, wash everything, pulled the drawers, the actual shelves out, did a deep clean, tried to get rid of those silly little things and all of their eggs so that I didn't get them again. And so maybe think about having a list of things. Maybe it's a drawer that you've been staring at for ages. Maybe you want to do a clean out of your wardrobe, but stuff to keep you busy, okay? And there are some helpful healthy at-home activities that I just kind of chucked a list together. I'd love to hear from you. Is there things that you think is useful? But I was like, what if you clean out a drawer? What if you sort through some clothes? Create a photo book maybe for the year? Gather recipes, write meal plans. So you can use the new meal planner section on the website. Go through old books. You could reread something, maybe you can reorganize your bookshelves, organize the pantry, organize all your kitchen things, make a wish list of new items. Outside of that, maybe it's doing things like card games, jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles, adult cat colouring in. Like, you can download apps now where you colour in. You can download full sections off websites now. If you just Google, things to do at home, any other hobbies you enjoy, knitting, crocheting. It's coming into winter. Gardening, Jenny, perfect, and that gets you outside still. And you can still be social. So that's a really important thing to think about, is maybe you organise with friends or family to have FaceTime dates. You could use something like Marco Polo. I don't know if any of you use that app, or even WhatsApp, where you just record video or sound voicemails and sort of send them to each other. You could even create like an online book club, utilise group texts. Maybe you go back to like the people that you haven't contacted for ages but you've meaning to, and you write a list of everyone and you actually just send them a message and say, hey, you know, I know it's been ages, but I have been meaning to get in touch. I hope you're well. And just creating that social interaction that we sort of get every day, but creating it virtually. As Jenny said as well, it doesn't necessarily mean, depending on what your house setup is like, it doesn't mean that you can't go outside. It doesn't necessarily mean, unless you are unwell, that you can't go out for a walk. Just we're talking about social distancing, unless you're specifically being quarantined, which obviously is happening now with people who are coming into the country. But if you are just going into social isolation just as a preventative measure to lessen the burden on the community, then I think, you know, going out and still doing some exercise outside is a good way. Even sitting in the sun, if you don't have to be near anybody, that's absolutely fine. And creating physical activity is kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, ideally what we would do is keep our exercise plan going, because I know that Victoria commented and said about the sleep challenge that she finds it really difficult when she's not exercising. She usually exercises in the gym or she goes horse riding, but because she's self-isolating, she can't do that at the moment. So instead, try to think about maybe looking up some at-home exercise routines. YouTube has heaps. There are apps out there like the Nike training app. There's apps out there like Kayla Itzing Sweat app, and they're a little bit more intense, but there are lots of different levels in there that you can choose. You might even just listen to a podcast or music and go up and down your stairs, depending on how big your house. Maybe you have a treadmill, maybe you have a little exercise bike, but actually getting on and doing that exercise that you would normally have as part of your day is going to be really important to your mental health and your physical health and your sleep, and getting that anxiety and worry under control. Maybe I always get in trouble for not doing strength training. I do lots of endurance stuff, but I should do more strength, and I should probably do more flexibility. So this would be a perfect time, if I have to work from home, for me to spend a bit more time on those weaknesses of mine. So I hope that helps at least a little bit to give you a few ideas. Biggest thing, keep it simple, keep your routine, make sure that you plan your meals. I would also focus on water in between meals, focus on filling protein at your main meals, okay, and do activities that will actually help benefit your mental health, and think about who you can reach out to. So whilst you can't see people in the flesh, actually making those social connections with others virtually is probably a really, really healthy thing to do at this time. One thing I might not recommend, and this is what I ended up a lot when I was sort of reading about the bushfires, is kind of a lot of media exposure can actually make it worse. Make your anxiety worse. So perhaps, you know, switching off the news and just kind of settling into a little bubble, and using apps like FaceTime or like WhatsApp to communicate with friends, rather than social media like Facebook, where often news pops up. It could be a good idea just to kind of stay out of the news for a little bit, and maybe just check in once a day, or maybe just check in on the ABC website, for example, where they have the live updates on what the recommendations are in terms of the health department, and what the Prime Minister is saying in terms of self-isolation or quarantine recommendations. So look, it's a changing feast. It's a moving feast, and nobody really knows, but hopefully at least those ideas give you something to work with. So Sarah, I like Sarah Day's ebooks for at-home intense workouts without equipment. Great good. Any of those tips or resources that you think are useful, things that you do when you're at home, when you're, whether you're sick or not sick, more ideas the better. So I might just start a thread that also kind of summarizes what I've talked about tonight, and then we can get some more ideas flowing as well to make it kind of a comprehensive list. I might even start one of those files that you guys can edit, so we've got a big list of stuff to do. So let me know if there's anything else that you want some advice on, if there's anything else there that might help, and I'll come back to that. In the meantime though, where are we? I'm just going to scroll back through the group. Vanessa posted a delicious looking peanut butter and chocolate overnight oats. Thank you, Vanessa. It looks amazing. Don't forget that on the recipe section now on the website, you can submit your own recipes there, which means that everybody will have access to those and they'll be able to save them into their meal plans or their recipe collections. So the recipe collection section on the website basically means that you can collect a whole bunch of recipes that are your favorites. You could create them into meal plans yourself, or you can use some of the meal plans that I've put up for you. And you'll find that in the members section of the website. If you go to, let me just check that I get the right web page. Under the community section is a tab called Member Meal Plans and Recipe Collection. So on that tab, you'll see a few, you have to log in, but you'll see a few ideas that I've given you in terms of recipe collections, and I'm adding to the recipes every week. So if you want to add some more, go for it. I put a high protein chocolate avocado mousse up on Saturday, so have a go at that. You can drag and drop that in. Nina Ann's given us new product recommendations. I put up on Instagram the other day and nobody told me if they'd seen it or not, but if they'd tried it or not, but it was cricket-based protein powder. So I'm not quite there yet in terms of trying. I'm going to have to put on my big girl pants and try it soon. But I would love to hear if you've tried it or if there are any new products. I know at the moment it's a little bit hard because there's not much left in the supermarket. But if there's anything that you've seen or tried. The other thing that I tried the other day that I saw was the Yalna they now have a high protein yogurt with 18 grams of protein per serve. I tried it, it was fine. It's a plain yogurt, like a Greek style yogurt, like the Yalna sort of set, pot set yogurt. It does have it's slightly heavier, I think because of the protein content, and I found it a little bit tough to kind of eat. I don't know why, it just didn't sit as well with me as some of the others. So give it a go, see if you like it, I guess. It's another option out there. And now there's quite a few high protein yogurts on the market, which is good. There's a few for us to try and to choose from. What else? Jenny's been meal prepping, so she was sending us examples of the containers that she's using, packed full of good foods. Last week I posted a blog. The last blog was on how to start exercising and stick to it. So that one was some really practical examples of how you can get yourself to get moving if you've fallen out of the habit, or how to start moving after the surgery if you haven't quite started yet. So that one, I had a couple of great comments on there about how people motivate themselves and also what they choose. So for example, Chris does so much dancing. It's amazing. She does line dancing. She does it 3 to 4 times a week and 3 to 5 hours each session. And then she does social dancing twice a month. So she said she enjoys it so much that it doesn't really feel like exercise. And that's what I want you all to try and find. So I would love to hear what motivates you to get moving, because I think it's really, really important if we're going to manage to stay active in the long term. All right, I'm just having a look if there's anything else. I think that's probably it. Again, sorry about the weird background and the slightly weird lighting, but hopefully you guys have enjoyed the tips. I'm going to start a thread when I log off about some of the tips that I think are helpful for if you have to stay at home for a couple of weeks and keeping sane. And then I would love to hear your suggestions, anything else that you think might be helpful as well. And we will get through this. So if you need to vent, if you need to post in the group, I'm going to try and be in the group a little bit more. We're still at work at the moment, so we haven't been told to stay at home, but we're kind of just waiting for the inevitable, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks. So I would love to hear from you. As per usual, let me know if there's anything else that I can do to help, okay? And that's about all the time we have. So thank you all, and I will talk to you in a couple of weeks. If we all do end up at home in lockdown, I might jump on before 2 weeks' time and do a little extra live Q&A and pop in and say hi. Keep us all occupied, all right? Okay, I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.